thank you for agreeing to be interviewed this afternoon. For the record, if you could just state your initials, is that what you prefer to be known by? Your initials, your country of birth, and your date of birth.
My initials are A. Johnson. Date of birth 23. Yeah.
And where were you born?
I was born in Sheffield, the parish of Westmoreland, the island of Jamaica, the West Indies.
West Indies. So what can you tell me about your life there?
What was my family life?
Family, growing up?
What, the family and everything?
Yeah. Just to give a background, really.
Well, in the family there were 7 of us boys, no girl.
No girls.
I was the second. So happened that the third one after me died. So 6 of us grew up.
How old was he when he died?
Pardon?
How old was he when he died?
About 3.
You know why? Why did he die? What happened?
No, I can't remember because I was then maybe about 6, 7.
Okay.
Maybe not even quite that old. So I wouldn't know anything about that. So are you asking question or are I just feeling?
I ask you the questions just to lead you on and you talk to answer the question.
Well, as for manner of life, working on things, well, I grew up and, for instance, I went to elementary school. I didn't go very far in school, but after leaving school, started working for myself, I did not learn a trade. Not until I was about 21 before I started painting, house painting. And that time was 1948, 49. That wasn't exactly what I do for a living. I used to cultivate a lot. So plant rice and plant vegetables and plant other foods.
Yeah.
That was most of my living. So when, after doing that for a time, I need somebody that I'd leave and with some painting job work and then come back to it again. Then I decided to come to England. That was 1956. Earlier in that year, a gentleman got some cards for farm workers to go to America, which if I had gone, that would be my second trip. Because I had gone when I was, before I was 21, I went over there and I spent 21 months. But by then, I had decided to come to England, and the gentleman called me and said he had some card and he wanted to give me one. So I told him, thank you, but I've decided to go to England, so I didn't take the card. And then up to the middle of the year, we caught the boat in Kingston and with 21 days on the sea. 20 days on the sea, and we landed in Genoa. We took train from thence to France, and we got the boat over to Dover and train to Victoria, and the bus to where I was to stay, that's in Clapton in London. It didn't take me long to get a job because there was a lot of jobs then. We landed there Thursday, and the next Monday got a job, so I started Tuesday.
Oh, that was quite quick. Do you remember anything about your journey? What was it like?
It was nothing spectacular about the journey, except that in the Atlantic it was very rough. The boat was heaving bow to stern, like that. And then when we got in the Mediterranean, it was rough again, but that was side to side. And there were a lot of people sick on the boat. I sick on the boat myself. I couldn't taste the mess hall. Because as soon as I smell the food, I just start throwing up. That was the worst thing. But coming to this country, a friend received me in London, and like I said, I started working the Tuesday. By near the end of the week, I got a letter from the assistant board. They wanted to give me some money. I said, thank you, but I started to work and I got paid the same week. I started to work. I worked in that job about 3 months. That was at a laundry. Then I left it and started one at a furniture manufacturer's place. I used to drive a small truck inside the works. And I worked there for about another 3 months, and I've got the sack. Not that I did anything, but the manager told me that a fellow that used to have that job, he came back for it, which was all wrong, and it was a lie as well. Because I had to teach the young fellow who was taking over that job. I had to teach him the job for a week because I didn't know anything about it. And then I got another job as a wood borer. You know these lamp stand? With the wooden lamp, with the wooden stand. I had to drill the hole in the middle of it. And I worked there for a time, and I left it and got another one doing the same thing because that was better pay.
Was this all in London?
All in London. And where my friend was working as a grinder, he got a job there for me, so I left that one and started to do grinding. And I worked there for some time, and I got the sack.
Again?
It was my fault. I stopped from working a half a day without telling them, and they sacked me for it.
So what happened that you took the half day?
Well, I had to go somewhere. I should have told them in the office, or should have told the foreman or so, but I didn't. I just stopped from work. I went the other week and they gave me a week's notice. Then I started another job. This now was in the city as a fitter's mate. You know, this firm, they install central heating in schools and different places wherever the job was. So I used to work with a fitter there, and I worked at that for 4 years. If I had stopped there till I was there 5 years, I would have got the tools. You see, I've advanced. During that time, you're advancing and you're knowing more about the job. But just as it reached 4 years, we moved to Wolverhampton. Now we had 2 children, 2 babies. And the house rent was very high in London. And that's why we left London. We decided to leave London. I went to Nottingham for 2 days. I stopped with a friend and I looked around. There was a lot of flats there you could have, but they were not as near as there as what was in London. But I didn't find a job, so I went back to London. We decided to come to Wolverhampton. We came here, I think it was the 24th of September 1964.
Why Wolverhampton?
My sister-in-law used to live in Wolverhampton, not Melvin's mother. Danny Dawkins.
Danny, all right, yeah.
His mother and my wife were sisters.
Okay.
But as for, some people came here and having trouble with other people, I never had the trouble with anybody. One of the things that shocked me most when I came to England, this might surprise you, is to find how ungodly English people were. Not as we thought back home.
What did they teach you back home?
Beg pardon?
What did they teach you about English people back home?
Well, there was a lot of English people back home, and we used to work with them. Sometimes you have to work with them.
Yeah.
And the ministers in the churches, except the Adventist church, of course, were almost always English ministers. And, well, we could judge from those ministers. We took them and judged their own people, and we thought they were very, very religious. But when we came there, I found that they were very ungodly. As for experiences when we came here first, I came in 1956, as I said. But the harsh experiences that we came across then was to find somewhere to live. I came here when a lot of West Indians were coming here. But it was very hard to find somewhere to live in London. Chiefly from the English people, they wouldn't rent you a flat or a house. If it hadn't been for the Jews, I think some of us would have to sleep in the park. But the Jews, they had houses, and even if they had one house, they would either rent you the attic flat or the basement flat. And they had other houses that they would rent you a room, maybe 4 or 5. For instance, if there were 5 rooms in a house, what they would do, they put a gas meter in the room, an electric meter in the room, and that room was your bedroom, your kitchen, and everything, your sitting room and everything. And then everybody shared the kitchen, the one kitchen. But we were very grateful for that. Then a lot of West Indians started to buy houses. And when they bought the house, if they were, for instance, you find a house with, say, 3 bedrooms, kitchen, a bathroom, and a sitting room, you'd rent all the rooms. And everybody had to share the kitchen. And sometimes you can't get near the toilet.
Why was that?
So many people living in the houses that you may want to run to the toilet when it's occupied. You come in from work, you can't face the kitchen because there's so many people use the kitchen. You can't get there. And even if you get in there, there's no part on the stove for you to use. You want to go to the bathroom, you want a bath, you can't get to the bath. Like a lot of people, chiefly on a Friday, find other people using the bath. Then there weren't many washing machines weren't popular then. So people used to wash in the bath. You have a scrubbing board and you put your clothes in the bath and you bend over it and you wash. So we passed through all that. Well, by the time in 1959, we went to Swindon, that's in Wiltshire. We found that the people in Swindon were far different from the people in London. They were very friendly and they would go out of the way to help you. But then we spent 14 months in Swindon and we decided to go back to London. So we went back to London in 1960.
So why did you leave from Swindon if it was so nice? The people were so nice there?
Well, they weren't weren't as many jobs there. The job wasn't frequent. You couldn't find a job frequently as you do in London, unless you find a job where you well paid. When I say well paid, then you were looking for the best payment you could get.
What was good pay then?
I know the first job I had in London was at a warehouse, and the payment was about £12 a week. And then I left that. I worked at a laundry, and you could work yourself up to about £14 a week. But then I worked there for a time, and a friend in London got in touch with me and got a job for me. It was a night job as machine operator. And that I only worked 3 days. That job paid more than the rest, being night, and of course that was, say, not a laboring job. But you had to operate 5 machines, and they were all automatic. And you had to push the bar in. They were making different things. Some making things for televisions and all kinds. And you have to keep gauging the work to see that they're at the right size and the right length. And it was hard work. And not being used to night work, it was knocking me about. And then the wife was getting lonely at night, and said, all right, you have to pack it in. So I packed it in. Oh, that was the job I left to do the fitters job. That was one I left.
So were you getting poor pay, good pay, average pay? What was it like? I mean, was £12 a week good? Was it bad?
Well, £12 a week then wasn't really bad, but you had to do quite a bit of overtime to make that up.
Yeah.
Well, when I was working at as a fitter's mate, I used to work all over the place, all over the county, so the counties around London. And wherever you worked for that firm, they pay your fare. For instance, if you were living here, and the office was, say, in Stafford, and if there's a job next door to you where you live, your fare was paid from Stafford to here. Wherever the job was, your fare was paid from the office to the job. But when there was a job at the office, sometimes we have to work there.
Yeah.
You didn't get any fare. It depends on where you work. You work up to £14-15, and even then, at that time, it wasn't bad pay. I used to work all around London, through London, through Surrey, Essex, Kent, Buckinghamshire, Hertfordshire, all the counties around London. You also have to travel there by train or whatever, or by bus. But like I said, you'll get your fare back. And then, because of the highness of the house rent in London, we decided to leave. And we came to Wolverhampton in '64, and we are still here. When where we were living, that's where we met the worst treatment. There was a family with children, and we having 3 children now because we sent for the son in Jamaica. So there were 3 children of ours, and sometime you'd come in, like on a Friday night, and you couldn't get a bath until the family, the resident family, all of them had their bath before you could bathe. You come in sometimes, the kitchen, the stove was pulled up, for cleaning, and I didn't put it back together. You can't even have a kettle to make, say, a drink for the baby, so you have to use a lamp in the room to hot the kettle. And that was the worst treatment we had from our own relations. I won't call any name, but from our own relations.
So they were family? Or they were the same, or they were black people?
They were black people. from Jamaica, and people we knew from back home. But we lived there for about 3 years. Then, if you wanted a house from the council, you had to be registered for 2 years before you would be offered anything. And when we registered, the condition got so bad that we couldn't wait. We had to decide to get a place of our own. We didn't have the money, but I had to borrow from about 3 people just to pay the deposit.
Yeah.
And after the deposit was paid and we got the house, to furnish the house and everything, we ran further into debt. Then I have to borrow from you to pay that person.
Yeah.
And until the Lord helped us and we cleared ourselves from all the debt.
How long did that take?
How long did it take?
Yeah.
By the time we covered all that, it was about between 2 and 3 years. Borrowing from here and paid it, and borrowing from here and paid it until we cleared the debt. And the wife started to work in the hospital. And the next, she started to work in the hospital. And I used to work right down there, Cable Street, as a painter.
Yeah.
I worked there for 11 years and I got redundant. Then, when I started a new job in Wednesbury, as a sprayer, paint sprayer, we decided the house got too big because the son had grown up and he left home. The house got too big, so we sold the house and we bought this one. And then after I got redundant, I started to work in Windrush, and I worked there for 3.5.
Alright, sorry about that interruption. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, where were we?
Right, then they got the story of my life.
Only half of it. You'd moved to Wolverhampton then, and you'd bought your house? Bought your own house?
Yes, by the time we got this one, then the problem wasn't so much about paying the deposit, because what we got off the other house, we just paid it down on this one. And that was 1979 we moved here. Now, by the way, we lived at the other one for 12 years. And we came here in 1979, so this 2000 is 21 years since we moved here. Well, I got as far as work when I got redundant in Wednesbury. After that, it was right in the time when there was a lot of unemployment after Thatcher's government was in power, and thousands of places were closing down. I then started back on painting. I never had a job that I worked on for very long. I started to work around. I worked with a firm in Walsall for some time. And I worked with another firm in Cannock, and then I worked with Harper's Construction, the dog painting. I left and I went on the skill center for some time, and I didn't do very well, so I went back to Harper's. And you know, when you're working on the outside, when it comes to the latter part of the year, say November, the work boils down that there wasn't much work then. So I had to leave. And since then, I do a bit of work here and a bit of work there, from place to place, different places.
You travelled around a bit, work-wise. You travelled around a bit, done a lot of different
Yes, but in Solihull when I was working with the one in Walsall, I worked at Wellington and I worked at Dudley and other places that you have not you're not based at home. You have to travel around. Then in 1984, the this community, Wolverhampton community, what they call WCCR, was in vogue. With they would employ people for a year. After 12 months, you had to leave, and you couldn't get a job back there again until 12 months passed. Well, I did the first 12 months, and I had to leave. That was 84. 85, I knocked around a few days work here and a few days work there.
So how did it feel then, doing so many different jobs and moving around so much?
Well, I didn't feel frustrated about it because I was glad to know that I could get a few days work because so many people were out of work then in the country. And back at WCCR, I went there in 1966 and I got a job there for 12 months. When the 12 months came, before the 12 months came, the convener came up the office one morning where we all met to clock in, the convener who was in charge. And he called me. He called me and said, "Harry, I want to talk to you, come up here." And he said, "I want you to assist the supervisor that when he's not here, you are in charge." There were 17 of us as painters working there. So I want you to help him, and when he's not here, you are in charge. That was Wednesday. And I said, "You know how I work. I don't work on Fridays. I must go home early Fridays." And he walked away into another office and he came back and he said, "All right, I'll tell you what you do so you won't lose any time and we won't lose any time. I'll give you the key for the office. You come in the morning quarter hour before time and open the door before the other men came in. And you can work half day, take half hour at lunchtime instead of an hour." Is that the milkman?
Yeah.
He's early.
Can I stop the tape?
I'll carry on because they're not coming in.
Okay.
What? So, like I said, that was Wednesday morning. And he said, "Consider yourself as an assistant supervisor from Monday morning gone." And for the rest of the 12 months, I carried on as assistant supervisor.
So how did you feel about that? Is that good?
That was good because although the pay was big, but it was about another £20 a week for me. And when the 12 months was up, I would have to leave. He called me, "Harry, see, I tell you what you do. Monday morning, go up to the job center and ask for this lady." He gave me the name. "And tell her I sent you." When I went, that lady wasn't on the desk the morning. So I asked the lady who was on the desk to ring him back at the office. And the lady rang and he spoke to her. And the lady came back to me and said, "But Mr. Johnson, after the age of 60, you're not supposed to be on this scheme. I said, alright, why don't you ring Frank? Again, she rang Frank, and whatever Frank said to her, she came back and said, alright, Mr. John, you can have the job. So that's another 12 months, which wasn't due me. I should have left after 12 months.
So what year was this?
Assistant supervisor.
What year?
That was 86. That would be end of 86, coming 87.
Right, so you've been working a long time, working at different places around the place, and you said before that you've never had any problem with white people, English people.
None.
Not even in the workplace.
Well, like quarrels and so forth, I never had any quarrel. I know at one time I was bypassed for a job. I used to run the paint shop, and then they wanted an official charge hand. When the shop was open first, I was the only painter in there, and it gradually built up until there were 9 of us as painters, and they wanted a charge hand. And the shop superintendent was a man sent from London, and he employed the gentleman whose house he was living. He stopped with this man who was a house painter. And when the man came and took the charge and job over, he didn't know a single thing about industrial painting, and I had to show him everything. I didn't feel bitter, but I knew I was bypassed because I knew the job, and I ran the job there for 9 years before he took over. And for that reason, the other painters, some of them resented him.
Yeah.
And if they wanted anything at the store and so forth, I had to sign the ticket and get the superintendent or the manager to sign it to get it. And he was an asthmatic and used to have long periods of work. Sometimes he was in the hospital and had to go and had to go and pardon? Yeah. Anyway, he used to have long periods of work, and while he was there, he wasn't coming back. So the manager, now the new manager, gave me the charge and job, which wasn't a lot more pay. It was just about another £1 a week more than the other painters. Well, it ran on for a time until the shop was running down. The workers were being redundant until 3 of us were left there as painter, and then the shop closed down and we had to leave. That was 76.
So you're retired now then?
Me pardon?
Are you retired now then?
You mean now?
Yeah.
Oh girl, look at me.
You look young to me.
Alright, let me come to that then. Going back to the job center, when I did the 2nd year, which I shouldn't be doing at the job, I had to leave now. On the Monday morning I went to the job center to sign on, and while I was passing over there, because the office was in Clarence Road, I just heard somebody shouted me across the car park. Harry! Everybody called me Harry. Harry's not my name. And when I looked, he beckoned to me and said, come here. I said, I'll tell you what you do. Go and sign on and come back. And when I sign on and come back, he said, I'm going to write to Man Services Power Commission and ask them to keep you on for another 12 months. And he wrote to them. And the next morning, like you have to sign every Monday. The next morning I went to sign on again, and while I was inside waiting, or somebody knock on the window like that, from outside, and when I looked, it was him. And he called me. He said, "Don't sign on. Consider yourself starting another 12 months." And so I stayed in that job then for another 12 months, which I shouldn't. So that's 2 years running. After you've done 1 year, you're supposed to leave. So, and then the end of coming down to the end of that year, the place closed down, September. And then it was near to my retirement age, so I had to retire.
And that was in
1987. 1987. And since then, I'm a retired man. I still do a bit of job here and there, painting. Even though if you want your house painted, you can paint it.
Oh, I'll let you know. Call you over next week.
So, that's the story of my life. But like I said, I never had any fuss with anybody. Never quite. There could be opportunities, but it depends on who you are. A lot of people having trouble with other people. Depends on the type of person you are. I don't look trouble, and if I see trouble, I walk away from it. I never had any problem with anybody.
So we've got half your life, your employment history. What about your family life?
You mean with her?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to sum it up in one short statement. If this was possible, I'd marry her 10 times again.
Really?
I don't know how she feels about me. You might look to tell you. I say.
Away at the back there, going yes. That's a wonderful statement to make.
If this was possible, I'd marry her. I tell them all in church, sometimes they ask him questions in church and so forth. I said, if this was possible, I'd marry her 10 times over. She's you get a bit cheeky sometimes, but aren't you all?
Me? That's where your daughters get it from, isn't it?
I'll tell you something. Even back home,
yeah.
I always prayed, because I became a Christian in 1950 as an Adventist. I didn't grow up as a Christian, in a Christian home. I became a Christian in 1950. And it was half of it was through her mother, who invited me to church. At the time we were nothing. We knew each other from home. Maybe that's why we live as we live as a family. We don't quarrel. The last time we quarreled was before we moved to this house, and it's 21 years now since we moved.
You haven't quarreled since? You sure?
We told off each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even then, while the children were growing, if we had a talking, they never heard. We locked in this room, and we talking here, and they never heard us. And if you come and knock that door, you wouldn't know we were mouthing each other. That's how we lived. And well, I think I sum it up for you already. I'd marry her 10 times again. I think she'll marry again 15 times. So
Okay.
that's how it is. I don't regret a single moment coming to this country. People I hear talk about England and talk about English people. But like I said, it surprised me when I came here and found them so ungodly. But I give God thanks for England every day. We talk about it several times because it has helped me.
In what ways?
Financially. Like I said, I was a Christian before I came here, but financially it helped me very much. It helped me to settle down and to... I don't have money, but thank God I have a roof over my head. Maybe if I was back home, probably things... I don't know what... I don't know how I would be. But let me sum it up again in one word. when the Jews were in Babylon and they thought, well, they were there for a short time, Jeremiah had to write from Palestine to them, so you're not there for a short time, so you better marry, give your daughters to husband and take husband to your daughters, because you went there for a short time. He said, plant vineyard and build houses and inhabit them, and pray for the peace of the country where you live. So we are doing that for this country. We are praying for the peace of this country, because it is this country why alright, even this, that we don't owe a penny in it. So that's it, Maureen.
What's the rule of, what's your basic principle then for your family life? You're bringing up, you have 3 children to bring up. What is your basic rule for bringing up your children? What were the principles?
One of the greatest things, Maureen, if you have a family, if you get married and have a family, have certain rules in your house and don't break it for anybody. Not for the children, not for anybody. And if you say, well, this chair is not to be moved from here, and one of your children come and say, Mommy, can we move this? And you said no, that child must know that he mustn't come to daddy, because daddy is going to say no. That's how those 2 girls grow. If they came to Mommy and said, Mommy, can they go down, Auntie? And Mommy thought, well, no. And Mommy said no, they wouldn't come to me. And if they came to me, and I said, did you ask Mommy? Yes. What did Mommy say? Mommy said no. I said, but Mommy said no, it's simply no. And we don't rough them, we don't shout at them. They were our best friend, and we were their best friend. So we weren't just parents and children, we were friends, and we are still friends. Up to now, although they grew up and not gone their own way, we are still friends. And I find it's passing on to the grandchildren. So that's what I would say to anybody. You have your children, don't change. You have a rule or a law in your house, that is the best way to run your family. Don't change it for anybody, not for your husband, not for your children. Never cross your husband. If there's a rule in the house, and like 30 children, for instance, can we go to the park, Daddy? I don't think so. Don't go to them. They wouldn't go to Mommy. And if they went to Mommy, did you ask Dad? Yes. What did Daddy say? He said no. Well, it's simply no.
So it's a united front all round.
And they grow up the same way. Like on a Sunday, if Mommy was in the kitchen doing something and they were around the back playing or skipping, wanting their skipping rope to it, and they said, Daddy, can you wheel my skipping rope? It doesn't matter what I was doing, I left it. When we did skipping rope. I said, well, when you do that, I said to her one day, I said, look, we only have them for a time, a while from this, they grow up and they're gone. So we had to do the best for them now while they need us. And that's what we did. I know it's many families, if families would do that, you wouldn't find so much trouble like you find in some families. We don't quarrel in front of them, we don't mouth each other in front of them, we don't shout at them, and like I said, we were friends. When she went to work at night, I had to look in the hospital, I had to look after them. They were young, I had to give them arithmetic, you know what they could manage. I gave them dictation, I read story to them, and all sorts before we went to bed. We never sent them to bed one night. We always put them to bed. So we pray with them, they lie down, we read them a story, break it down so they could understand it.
You're very involved.
Tuck them in. The people saying, go on up to your bed and so forth and go and study a lesson. No, we never did that. Always took them up, tuck them in, pray with them.
Yeah. So what would you say was the major influence on
faith.
Yeah. I know, but yeah.
Oh, well, it's because of the Seventh-day Adventist, the teachings of the Seventh-day Adventist, which is based on the Bible. And from that point of view, we ordered our family that way, and we haven't regretted for a moment. It was the church, really. The teachings we got in the church that helped us to decide on the way we were going to live and treat our children. We probably didn't have more children, but we decided on two. Because there was one from home, but we decided on two. I knew what my mother passed through with 7 of us boys running around her. I said I wasn't going to subject my wife to that. So we limited to 2. Not regretting. Again, when you have too many children, you can't manage them. You can't feed them. And you have to work, and the money is not very big. And what helped us out, we didn't have to buy all the clothes for them.
What is that?
We just sold them.
Maybe we said.
School clothes and all that. Yeah, it's up there.
Oh yeah, those dresses. Very nice.
Oh, I forgot I'm strung up.
Yeah, you're wired. Alright, so you had strong religious views, and that was what you based your family life on.
That's right.
How did your religion influence your views on educating your children?
To a great extent. We didn't force them into anything. We came to understand that children learn more by example than by you talking to them. They watch you. And they can see what you do. If what you're saying to them, if they can see it in you, then it has more influence on them. But, well, the whole of our life, married life together, based its influence from religious teaching and the Bible. And for that reason, we never had any trouble with them. Another thing too, while they were growing, say 10, 11, 12, coming up even to late teens, 16, 17, you know, some people, at that time there used to be a lot of concerts. Almost every week there were concerts in Birmingham, Sheffield, Manchester, all about the place.
What type of concerts?
Church concerts.
Church concerts.
And a lot of the young girls and so from church used to go, and they never wanted to go. We didn't have to tell them, no, don't go. And if they wanted to go, we wouldn't have let them either. Because it could be bad influence, leaving them out, going all that distance, coming back dead at night, in the early morning. No, not in our family.
Well, why would it have been a bad influence for them to have gone to a church concert rather than a secular concert? Surely going to church concert would have been better, or a good thing. Why did you not want them
Well, I'll tell you something. That's why now we don't go to concerts. Concert had taken a dive in such a way that the concerts that are running today, you hardly miss the dance hall. Because of the kind of music that are played there, and then you have your two young daughters, 17, 16, 17, leaving here and going at night and going to Sheffield, because we weren't going. I've gone to Manchester. You don't know what can happen to anything can happen to them. Well, it was from that point of view, for protective point of view, that we wouldn't have let, but they never wanted to go. Other young girls were going and they never wanted to say, Mommy, we don't want to go. So again, it has to be the way they were brought up. They never wanted to leave us. When Maxine was grown and started to learn nursing, she was stationed at the guest in Dudley, and she was there for a time. And she just rang one day and said, Mommy, how's Daddy to come and comfort me? I don't want to live here anymore.
Why is that?
She missed the family, and at night the other girls would have gone out and she was left there alone because she wasn't going out. She never used to it. So she had come back home.
So she stayed until she got married?
Again?
So Maxine stayed until she got married?
And so on, yeah. Both of them.
So it's a very close family.
They never left home.
So what were your views on education?
Education.
Yeah. What did you see education being used for?
Sorry, say it again.
Sorry. How did you see education as benefiting your children?
Well, we did our best for them, what they could do, what we could do. Like I said before, Mommy used to work at night in the hospital. I had to look after them in the evening. We weren't watching telly. We didn't have a telly. I didn't want one. And at night, after Mommy was gone, I said this already, I'd take them, go in the room, we sit on the floor. They read, and I would read. I would give them dictation, I'd tell them stories, I'd give them arithmetic that they could do and things like that. I'd give them spelling and all that. I didn't have much education myself. Up to now I don't have it. But I knew education was good and in a country because it would help them in the future. So we tried our best with them and helped them the way we could. And thank the Lord. Even when Maxine left St. Jude's Monday, now when she was to go to St. Peter's, we wanted her to go to St. Peter's, and I knew Adventist families who, in order to get their children in St. Peter's, they would visit Church of England churches on Sundays just to say, well, they were connected. But we never. We just prayed over the matter and left it in the hand of the Lord. And she was elected to go to St. Peter's. And Sonia didn't get in there, so she went to Regis up to now. And that's where they finished up. And I can say, thank the Lord for them. God has helped them. They're better off than me in certain ways.
So, sorry, your wife was saying that education is good, but it depends on how you use it.
That's right, that's right. There's nothing wrong with education. It's very good. Again, like you said, it depends on how you use it. If it's being used just to show off or something like that, then no. But if it's to help somebody else, and when a Christian is educated, is able to do more in the church and for the church and for the membership of the church than if he's not that the God cannot use the uneducated person, because it depends on your dedication to God. It depends on the influence of the Spirit in your life. So on a whole, we are for education, nothing against education. Any other area?
So staying with religion or going to church, you're Seventh-day Adventist, right? So you go to church on Saturday.
like I said, I became an Adventist. I was grown up in a Christian home, but I became an Adventist Christian in 1950. That was my first entry. Because I tell you something, I had no reason, but I didn't like Adventists. No, I had no reason because people always talk against Adventists, this about Adventists, and I just more or less kicking with somebody else's leg.
Yeah.
And my first contact was 1949. I went to the week of prayer, 4 of us as friends, and you know where we sat, very back. And when the meeting progressed Sunday night, and the preacher was preaching and then he was making an altar call, I wanted to go up. I didn't want to go out alone. I invited the other 3 friends to go and they wouldn't budge. And I kept nuking them and doing all kind of things. And I said, come on, let's go. Eventually, all 4 of us walked up. And the minister prayed for us. But I was the only one that went back to the church. The others didn't go back. And we weren't living far from each other. I was walking through their yard one day and her mother said to me, but Master Aubrey, why don't you come to church with us this Sabbath? And I said, I don't know. I'll think about it and let you know. I thought about it in the week, and when I decided, I told her I would come. So I went Saturday morning, Saturday to me then. And when I went, the Sabbath school lesson was being taken from the desk by a teacher from Hanover. He was going to do the preach a sermon. And the topic was about the papacy. First I ever heard that word. And I never understand more than maybe about 5 or 10% of what he was saying. I was satisfied. And I didn't immediately start going to church until she invited me. I never stopped again. I was baptized in February 1950. And it went for a time until I left the church for about 8 years.
Is that while you were in England or?
Back home. I was 8 years out there, not running about or going back in anything, but it was not until I came to England in 1962 got baptized again in Holloway, in London then. We sat in Holloway Church. And in 64 we came up here and I'm in the church now, still there.
So when you first came to the Adventist churches in England, were they mostly white then?
No, Holloway majority were West Indians. All churches that I attend in this country, it's only once I went to Coventry on a Sabbath and the majority of the members were white. But all the Adventist churches that I visit in this country, majority are West Indians. I know when it was only Oxford Street Church there when we came here, and there were quite a number of white members there, but they gradually drifted out and drifted away until we only have a few left now.
Why do you think that was?
I can't put my finger on anything, but the common feeling was that West Indians in a whole are more versed in the scriptures than the English. The kind of teaching that we get back home, you don't get in this country. I said to the church one day, I said, the kind of Adventism that we know back in Jamaica, it's not in this country, it's not taught. A lot of things that happen in the church in this country couldn't happen in the church back home. A lot of things that the minister would put up with. and there was a minister's meeting one day. I was asked to address them for 10 minutes. And one of the questions they asked was the same thing. I said, what happened to Adventists in this country? The ministers are to blame. They lower the principles of the church just in order to get members in. It's not back so well. It wasn't that way when I was in Jamaica. You had to be taught for months before you were baptized. And even some dresses that I see people wear, clothes I see people wear, come to church now. They couldn't do it in the church back home. We had a woman leader. You couldn't cross the threshold of the church with it. And other principles of the church are not kept up in the church over here. It's watered down just in order to get people in. I told him that.
You're an elder in the church, aren't you?
Because
you're an elder.
Well, I've been an elder, not this year. I've been an elder for 23 years running, but I haven't been elected an elder this year. But in somehow, I'm glad for the freedom, because I move around. I get a chance to move around.
Okay, probably have to be winding up soon. I can see various pictures around of your grandchildren. How many do you have altogether?
There's 4 in this country, there's 2 in America, and I've got 3 back home.
Okay, looking back on your life, what would you say were your greatest achievements?
Well, the greatest thing that could ever happen to me is becoming a Christian, becoming an Adventist Christian. That's the greatest thing that could ever happen to me. And the second thing that helped me along on my family life, a Christian life pathway, and helped me along generally. It's that lady sitting down there.
That one over there?
That little one there. I told you how I feel about her already.
Yeah.
But those are the 2 greatest things that happened to me. And the children coming along, and the fact that to see how they grow up and they stuck to the church and are active in the church. I couldn't want anything better than that. I don't have money, thank the Lord. If she dies, I have enough to bury her. If I die, she's got enough to bury me. We are one, we're a family. If we have a penny, it's in both of us now. We trust each other that way. Over the years during the working, we never had a lot of money coming in, and most times if we were going to spend £1, we have to sit down and check it out first if we afford to spend £1. We don't get ourselves in debt. No, we don't like that. We keep clear of it if we can. If we want something, we don't able to buy it, we do without it.
So you've been in Wolverhampton. You've been in Wolverhampton since 1964.
64,
so
yeah.
You've been here quite a long time. Have you seen many changes, do you think? Has it changed a lot?
Yes. Many changes in this town. When we came to Wolverhampton, it was a dirty, grimy, smoky place. All in the town centre. Well, some old buildings were in there, and they knocked them down and put up some new ones and modernized the place. There was some church buildings inside the town. They knocked them all down. On Waterloo Road, on Horsley Fields, they knocked them all down. Where the job centre is, there was a church building there, a big church building.
That's changed a lot physically.
It has changed a lot on the new roads. If somebody had left here, say 35 years ago, and come back here and they wouldn't know how to get around Wolverhampton. They'd be lost. There's the many changes that have been made. Yes, a lot of improvement.
Do you feel that you contributed anything to Wolverhampton?
Oh, sorry. Is it right? Sorry about that, I forget.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. Yes, I feel that we made some contribution to Wolverhampton. I know a lot of people who came to this country and they don't do anything. They live off the country. Well, the fact that we came here and we worked all the time that we could get work to do, that was a contribution. The country was helping us and we were helping the country. Because when we came here, it was a shortage of labor. Why so many West Indians came to this country. And I should say, we contributed to the country in nursing, in the police, in every way to this country. While we were helping ourselves, we helped the country along.
What about specifically Wolverhampton? What about specifically Wolverhampton? How have you helped, contributed towards Wolverhampton or in Wolverhampton, in your opinion?
Well, in general working, as I was saying, and for instance, even in helping youngsters, like in the church, counseling and giving some directions, which if taken and followed, can contribute a lot to a country or any town. Because if you take Adventists, for instance, a lot of the things that are happening adversely in Wolverhampton, for instance, Adventists are not involved. Adventist youngsters are not involved. You may hear of one here and there now and again, but generally Adventist youngsters are not involved in them, in drug taking and fighting and all these kind of things. So it depends on how the children are brought up, which is a contribution to the country. The government doesn't have any problem with them, and so forth. It all boils down, the root is in the church, in the Bible. You try to live according to the Bible. And that, if you do that, then that keeps you out of a lot of things. You don't get in any problem. Some of the things might not be very palatable, but instead of making a fuss over it, you control yourself, you take it easy, and God works things out.
All right, what do you look forward to for the future then? In the future?
What do you look forward to for the future? As far as, again, the scriptures are concerned, I don't think this world have a very long future in time. Nobody can put any time on it, but according to certain prophecies in the Bible, this world can't have a lot of time left. But for the future, as I'm now, how old am I, Ma?
70-something, my dear boy.
I'm coming up 76 now.
All right.
December I'll be 70.
How old you are?
December I'll be 76.
Yes.
So I can't contribute a lot work-wise to Wolverhampton or to the country, but helping out in the church and to steer people in the right way, youngsters or adults, that's still a help to the community. I'll do what I can. I'll visit the members, I'll visit non-members and all that. What I used to do one time, every Sabbath afternoon I used to go up the hospital. No patient in there, but I know. But just go on the ward and ask the sister, I'm going to talk to anybody that didn't have a visitor. I don't do that now, but I used to do that a lot. Because now we are more tied up in the church, like in the afternoon. You have choir practice and you have Bible studies and all sorts. But I'm still contributing.
Okay. Good. Right. Well, thank you very much for talking to me this afternoon.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing your life history, and thank you for sharing your thoughts on your wife as well and family. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
You're welcome, Maria.